This is Hit Publish, the first podcast dedicated to uncovering heroic businesses secretly navigating the ever-changing digital landscape. Each episode, we'll play host to leaders in their fields discussing their adoption of the latest digital trends and related technologies, addressing the total effects on the way we market businesses and brands across all of our industries. And occasionally, we'll pay homage to the technology giants who dictate our online lives and the platforms they provide, reminding ourselves of the self-inflicted and inevitable misuse of personal data. So if this all sounds good to you, skip the terms and conditions, ignore the privacy policy, and hit subscribe. On this episode of Hit Publish.
If you're not entertaining or informing, what are you doing? You know, we've got so many things that, you know, are an intrusion into our lives. You know, as a marketer, the best and, you know, basically the least you can do is be entertaining or informing. There's been, I think it's like a 60% increase on the year before, and that keeps happening. You're not going to get that with paid ads. You're just not. Yes, I can get them in Men's Health. Cool. What about that blog over there with 10,000 uniques? Because that's a bought-in audience.
Just out of interest, who's at the top of that list?
It was Kylie Jenner.
It was.
I can't remember how much she charged, but it was a fortune.
I don't know if I'm on board with that. We met up with Leigh from Radioactive PR and the newly formed Radioactive Talent. Founded in 2014, Radioactive is a full-service PR agency leading on and offline campaigns for household names and brands across the UK.
We spoke to Rich about how the PR world has changed massively over recent years and how his agency has responded to that. We asked the million-dollar questions of how to measure return on investment in PR and whether Twitter and Facebook should be seen as publishers. We also got Rich's unique insider thoughts on influencer marketing.
There'll also be our usual 5-minute latest news update and the reminder to subscribe to Hit Publish, your digital marketing, online advertising and technology-inspired podcast. Here we are, another episode of Hit Publish. We made it, and this time we've got beer.
Yes, we have.
We've been doing so many episodes recently, all of which have been early morning. Yeah. It's just inappropriate to get a beer out. So you're our first afternoon job, which means we can actually have a beer. Excellent. We're joined by Radioactive PR, Leigh from Radioactive PR. Hi, Rich.
Hello. How you doing?
Thanks for joining us.
Well, very, very happy to be here.
I've done my research. I've had a good look at your website. I've had a look at other things as well to find out a little bit more about Radioactive PR. Am I right in thinking that a fair old while ago, we helped build your website, or Nettle helped build your website?
Certainly did. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Cool. It's still there.
It's still there. It's still working.
Chris,
I want to get started with Rich. During your lifetime being in the PR game, I imagine it's changed massively, probably as much as any other industry almost.
I think so. Obviously, the media industry has changed massively in the last decade, last 5 years even. I got into PR in 2007, 2008, during which time print was still massively important to clients. And it's not to say that it's not anymore, but online link building, the SEO aspect of what we do is massively important now compared to what it was then. But I think we hit a really nice wave at the first agency I worked at, where we realized that a lot of big e-commerce sites, a lot of marketplaces needed that kind of Google love. So we came in with that link building, PR for SEO bit, as well as the straightforward, press office, product PR, profile PR type stuff. And it worked out really, really well.
Okay. So that's doing PR for Google, like I said, to give it some Google love has always kind of been in your psyche.
Yeah,
really.
Absolutely. And it's really because my boss, Andy, at the time was quite, he was quite active on a lot of forums where it was very affiliate marketing orientated. And those guys at the time, it was like the Wild West. They'd do anything to get a link. This is really where the term black hat SEO kind of, came into its own. So here we were offering, editorial links, from high domain authority websites, just with smart creative PR. And all of a sudden, people are like, we need that because we know that we're going to get penalized down the line. So that's really how it's changed. Is everybody else has kind of caught up a little bit, I think. Although you'd be surprised, a lot of people still don't see this as part of the traditional marketing or PR mix. They think that, PR is just media relations. It's just getting coverage on The Sun and saying, hey, you're there, or saying you're on BBC Breakfast, brilliant. Those things are still a big part of it. But PR for me is very much about finding the relevant audience and making them think or do what you want them to think or do, without them necessarily knowing that somebody like me is being there, kind of, planting those seeds, which sounds a lot more cynical than, I probably mean it. But that's, it really has changed in that the media's changed and we've had to adapt along with it.
Excellent.
And what tools are you utilising to make that transition or make that change? What I say, like it's happening. It's obviously already happened. That big move. So what are you? What do you now do from starting from, like you say, the traditional media publications, etc.? What is it now? What is the day to day now?
What's always been kind of in the background within PR is the media databases, the places you go to see, okay, who does property at the Times. Okay, well, that person there, this is their email address, this is what they like to write about, etc. Over the years, and I, in fact, kind of brought a couple of new things into the industry or into marketing. Over the years, those databases have changed. They now include a lot more on the influencer and blogger side of things, and I think we're going to get into that. In 2011, I created a site called Bloggerbase, which was an opted-in database for bloggers, and I think there were, by the end of it, kind of 16,000 opted-in bloggers. They'd all keyed their own bits. So you as a marketer or as a brand, and we have brands like Ralph Lauren and Disney and big brands using it, they'd go in, identify key bloggers and contact them through it. I think we missed a bit of a trick in that a lot of what we did was very gifting orientated, very, just connection. Whereas if I was doing that again now, I'd go more down the content route, more down the domain authority strength route, just because I know there's a lot more value in that than that kind of, quick hit, one-time contact. Probably go more down the brand partnership route with that if I was to do that again. But the tools have changed in that measurements become huge in PR. It's always been something that people have talked about because the traditional way that it's been measured is advertising value equivalent. So I don't know if you've heard of that, but what it basically means is if you're in insert newspaper here, the X inch by Y inch piece that that this PR editor's got for you, well, that would have cost you Z pounds to advertise in that space. And then what typically happens, because the whole industry was a bit Mickey Mouse, is they'd say, well, editorial's better trusted than ads. We kind of flick past ads. We read, what a journalist has written, and there's obviously truth in that. So let's factor that up. But nobody knew how to factor it up. So what you'd end up with is some people saying, well, that space would have cost you $2,000. Let's say let's factor it up by 5 times. Let's factor it up by that 5 times trust. Yeah. Nobody knows why. It's just arbitrary. Okay, so that would have cost, the AV of that piece there is $10,000. You paid us 3 this month. Ta-da. And it's such a shoddy way of measuring. And, scale that up. And that's something that a lot of people tended to use and still do use. I judge a lot of awards in the industry, and you still see AV mentioned sometimes as a measure of success. And it means nothing. My first ever meeting, so I was at my last agency, huge client. Everybody would know who this client was. I was in that kind of handover meeting where I was coming in to lead the account. They said, right, your PR value, which is basically your value for the month, was I think it was something ridiculous like 20,000 to 1. So whatever you spent with us this month, your value is 20,000 times that. It's like, well, it's not, is it? So that kind of led me to think we've got all the tools necessary. Google Analytics, SEMrush is, Ahrefs, we use that quite a bit, to kind of keyword identify and track site visibility and that kind of thing. So we look at where a client is and where they're going to be, but then because of Google Goals, especially because of Google Goals, you can see, well, that piece in the Telegraph, you had 200 uniques. It's always less than people think it is. It's never in the tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands like everybody thinks it is. Yeah. Hundreds, maybe thousands of click-throughs or visitors as a direct result. Well, the bounce rate's going to be higher and the conversion's going to be lower. Mm-hmm. How many converted? How many went into the sales funnel, whether it's a product or a service? And actually then, nobody wants to see that figure because it's going to be demonstrably lower than the AVE. So this is why the industry is kind of pushed up against measurement in PR. They've said, well, obviously I'm speaking, but it's almost been we don't want to do that because we might get a bad answer. We might get the response that, they've paid us $5,000 this month, $10,000 this month. Or, but actually no product sales. And as the world's changed, and to the first question, as the world's changed and social ads have come in and made it ever easier to make a lot of money, or not to make a lot of money, to prove exactly where your pounds go and where they come back in. Yeah. PR's had to kind of fight to stay relevant. It was traditional PR at least, that media relations piece, that profile piece. It's had to fight to basically say, no, there's still huge value in what we do. It's just it's not necessarily just in you being on TV anymore because everybody's on TV. It's not just you being in a paper because, what's the impact of that? Yeah. That link there led to this, which led to a couple of £100 worth in sales. Cool. And if you've got Facebook pixels, installed, then great, you can remarket. How do we do that? Let's show you. And then,
it sounds like then you're, correct if I'm wrong, it sounds like you're doing traditional media. So you're putting something into a publication, and actually in order to measure it, you're doing things like putting links in it to measure traffic. And I'm assuming that's a targeted landing page, and then you can measure. Yeah. So actually the traditional media still remains. It's just with that added.
It is.
Just drop a link in there.
Yeah. And it's still massively important. I did a talk recently, and I think to the question about adaptation and how we kind of move on as an industry, or how we improve and stay relevant as an industry. I think the media is in an absolute it's in a huge downward spiral, as most people know, from a advertiser spend, from a classifieds perspective. Basically, Google and Facebook have come in and swallowed everybody's dinner, and that's easy enough for everybody to outside looking in to see, because why would you pay to advertise your car in local press now when you can just do that on Facebook Marketplace for nothing? Why would you do as a business, why would you spend 500 quid in a regional when you could spend the same on Instagram and maybe get actual trackable results? So what's kind of happened is, and this again, not rocket science and won't be news to many listeners or you guys even, but the fact that there's that lack of spend means there are fewer journalists doing twice the work, because they're judged by, or even more than twice the work, they're judged by enormous traffic targets. They're judged even by affiliate marketing paid affiliate marketing targets. So they'll have to, in some of the bigger publishers, or put some of the bigger publishing groups, include affiliate marketing links in there, and then basically they're judged by how much people spend through those links too. Why? Because there's another route to monetization. And everybody's scrabbling, thinking, Christ, how do we monetize this? So it's changed enormously. And as I was talking about that, I thought, how do I de-risk this for Radioactive? As a PR agency, how do I de-risk this? Because all it would take is a couple of those huge publishers to fall over. And Johnson Press, it's an enormous regional publisher, 130, 140 titles, nearly went over, nearly went under even, and it was bought. It was kind of saved. Well, that's a huge amount of targets and high domain authority, kind of 70s, 80s, I don't know about 90s so much, but 70s at high end domain authority that all of a sudden don't exist anymore, or, exist in a different way. Well, that really affects, our ability to, from a PR for SEO perspective, go out, get these great links, get editorial links, and, increase client site visibility. Because at a kind of starting point with a lot of clients, they come in and say, right, we're spending X million on PPC a month, a year. How do we reduce that in these categories or these areas? And we say, well, okay, if we work on this one particular area with you, I think we can reduce your spend there. And now, it's just a literal, money in, money out question. They'll spend less with us than they would on PPC, and we'll help them from an organic perspective. We'll help their site be more visible. If it's more visible, the difference between somebody being, page one, number 1 and page 1, number 5 is massive. The again, you've probably seen the same graphs and stats that I have. The percentage click through and sale, and spend through that kind of, making a difference, even at that scale, which doesn't seem like a lot. It's just, a tiny mouse kind of scroll down. It's enormous. So that's kind of how things are changing.
It sounds like a massive shift, really, from what I perceive as traditional PR over to, well, frankly, SEO. Really, is what it sounds like. Do you do?
It's a convergence, very much of, is the way I see it.
Okay, So do you do a lot of traditional PR now?
We still do. Yeah.
What's working?
What's working? As ever, targeted, relevant, audience finding, and publications that reach that audience. Again, I always think, who's your audience? You could be any brand. You could be a waste management brand and company, and we're like, okay, well, who do you need to reach? Well, is it councils? Is it if so, what they listen to, watching, reading, consuming? Because everybody's doing one of those things. How do we get to them? Sometimes it might be a podcast. It might be a kind of contra partnership with a podcast. It might be a paid partnership. It might be that we recommend paid social. It's basically just looking at that whole mix. It's kind of been a bit channel agnostic, and that's something I think PR was slow to consider. Is very much people get into PR and they think, well, this is the one thing I do. It's the media side of things, and over time, people have wanted to kind of move away from that, but weren't quite necessarily sure how. Well, I think if you just approach it from an audience first perspective, think what channels are there that reach this client, reach this audience member on behalf of a client. forget how we do that. Forget the tactics. It might be a stunt. It might be, some clever bit of creative that nobody knows you anywhere near. It might be, just like I say, straight guest posting or whatever it is. But all of it amounts to kind of client results, and that's although that to your point, traditional PR does still happen. We do still get clients come to us and say, okay, we've got X product, we want it in front of as many people as possible. Mm-hmm. It's just our recommendations change necessarily.
Do you, looking at the website, correct me if I'm wrong, it doesn't show that you niche in anything, so you'll work with any
absolutely
brand.
Generalist,
yeah, generalist. So how do you stay informed of what's relevant in their industry?
Yeah. So you kind of tend to find that you don't necessarily need to be informed across everybody's sector, because again, with fewer journalists to find now, and that relationship building aspect just isn't there as much as it used to be. Gone are the days where you take a journalist to the pub for the day, or go for lunch, and then you see another one at tea time. And when I first got into PR, that still happened. Journalists are time strapped and stretched and stressed and underpaid, and that just doesn't typically happen anymore. And anytime a client comes in and they say, tell me who your best relationships are with, it's like it doesn't really matter anymore. It's on the strength of the idea, it's on the strength of the execution, not necessarily, or not entirely, not dependent on relationship. Because of course, if you've got a close relationship with a journalist or a producer over here at Sky News, they'll listen to you before they listen to somebody else. But it's very much strength of the idea still, or strength of the pitch. Now, the in terms of being informed in our industry, I actually started a website called PR Examples in 2012, and PR Examples is a kind of compendium of the best PR stunts and campaigns in the industry, and I sold it last year just because it was like with my agency and a few other things going on. I've got 3 children. I'm pretty busy, and a couple of other businesses that I'm building up. I thought I don't have the headspace for it, but it's a place where you go to kind of read and celebrate, but also be informed of the things that are happening in the industry. I think we got to 60,000 uniques when I was still kind of at the helm of it, I guess, and there are about 85 by any measure, or by some measures, 85,000 PRs in the UK. So, a pretty decent kind of cut through in terms of the industry. So I'm quite fortunate that I'll be writing these things, and I love stunts. I love creative campaigns. I really, really enjoy that sillier side of PR, the side that's like, I can get paid doing this. I can get paid doing
Do you still get a chance to do that?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Okay. Yeah, we do a lot of that kind of stuff. It's just the execution might not necessarily be as expensive as it used to be, in that people aren't coming to you with a six figure budget now for a stunt. They're saying, do this as cheaply as you can and as effectively as you can for me. As an agency, you still earn because of your time spent, but you might not have that kind of ancillary spend. You might not have the, okay, cool, let's go and get, insert celebrity here to front this campaign. Let's, build this cool bit of technology. You don't necessarily get that anymore. Yeah. Fewer brands are going down that route. But
do you think that's just because now there's more opportunity through social and online stuff?
Less that there's more opportunity, and more that there's more pressure to kind of basically it comes to a performance marketing, or comes from a performance marketing stance. Most marketing directors are quite aligned with the sales, and that's okay, and they should be. And obviously, you then got like brand marketers, brand directors. Again, they're all quite tightly knitted, quite tight with each other. And then it always comes back down to a performance. So if performance is sites more visible, great, PR's working. If performance is down to, we've made the news in every possible place we could, make it to reach the clients, the audience that we're after, cool, PR's working. And again, it comes back to, how you can measure that. But the creative stuff still does work, and it still has a place. It's just shifted slightly. When I first came in 12 years ago, there was a stunt for a Resident Evil video game where they did a treasure hunt, or like a body part hunt around London. They'd hidden really realistic looking body parts around London.
Right.
And basically, if you bought X number of arms and legs back, then you win Y thing. Yeah. And it really upset a lot of people. Got loads and loads of coverage. Got loads of people obviously talking about Resident Evil. Did it have an impact on sales? Who knows? But I remember seeing that kind of unfold. And I'm now really good friends with the guy behind that campaign. I remember watching that unfold thinking, oh my God, I can get paid for this. I can get paid for coming up with ideas like that. Where, I kind of, and then with that campaign, I loved it because there was a whole second, and now obviously, years in the game, that what's happened is they've planned this. There was a second push where they said, we've lost a few arms. We don't want these turning up and some 5-year-old finding them. And it's like, no, that was always planned. That's the fun of it. So there's PR Examples is a place where people stay informed, but also the drum is fantastic. You guys probably use the drum as much as I do. And multiple other, like eConsultancy used to be great, or used to spend a lot of time on there, less so now. There's podcasts, listen to a lot of industry podcasts. So yeah.
And hit publish, obviously.
Yeah, obviously.
I think, for me anyway, I think it definitely comes down to the creative and being as different and as unique as possible. We spoke, I think last episode or episode before, I can't remember, about a recent Amazon campaign. Do you remember that?
Yep.
Which was quite impressive. You probably, I can't remember the TV show, Miss something or other, Amazon Prime TV show, can't remember, set in the 50s.
Okay.
In the town that it was shot in or based in, Amazon went in and partnered with a bunch of retailers around to reduce their pricing of everything down to
the
what
price of what it would have been. I remember it.
Yeah. And petrol station specifically went down to 30 cents a gallon or something ridiculous. And it just caused mayhem with the traffic and people. And it's exactly what they were aiming for. Exactly what they're aiming for. And it's a cool and unique idea.
That's exactly it. Somebody, we do this every week. We all sit down as a team and we come up with ideas like that. So, we have a client briefing. They say, we want to do, we want to do something different in this space, or we're launching this product, or this new thing's coming out. How do we create noise around that? And I think the reason I love doing PR Examples was because as I was writing it, I'm enjoying it. I'm kind of being inspired by and being entertained by, and that's almost where I see PR. Especially the consumer side of PR that we do, and that generalist kind of PR it is to an extent an entertainment. There is an aspect of entertainment to it, because if you're not entertaining or informing, what are you doing? We've got so many things that are an intrusion into our lives. As a marketer, the best and basically the least you can do is be entertaining or informing to the audience that you're hoping to reach. Entertaining, engaging, informing, educational. One of those. Pick one and stick to it, because otherwise you're just an intrusion.
Yeah. And annoying.
And annoying. That's how I see it. And I think something like that, nobody's reading that thinking, Christ, I'm so bored of hearing about stuff like this, because it's interesting. That's the fun side that I really enjoy.
Here's a question for you. And it's not my question. I stole it from somewhere. I thought it was a good question. But it's simply asked, big data or big intuition? Okay. So it's obviously having a go at the ROI of PR, etc., which it shouldn't. But ultimately, how does I don't know if this is the right terminology, but organic PR fare with paid ads? Okay. Where should I throw my money?
Interesting. Depends on the client. I've had some clients before that have talked to me and said that budgets are tight, and I've recommended that they don't use us at all for another couple of months, and basically chuck all your money in Facebook and Instagram ads. I'll happily recommend that if I think that's the best thing for a client. Mm-hmm. Or we'll manage it for you. Like obviously for a X% fee on spend, but it's horses for courses. And if you're the kind of client, we get this a lot, where it's so dependent on no, we've got X thousand pound, we need Y, we need more than that to come back, or at least that to come back. Cool. I'll probably recommend you go down the paid social path, because it's so easily kind of split testable, and you can do a lot with that. But if you see PR as beneficial from that site visibility piece, as I do, from a credibility piece, everybody comes to us and they're like, oh, can you get us in the FT or on Forbes or whatever it is? Why do they want that? Well, they want that because they know that audiences are kind of impressed by, attracted to brands that are credible, and credibility is still measured by. And it comes back to my point earlier on about ads versus, editorial. It's still measured by, has somebody actually looked at this, or are they just saying what they're being told to pay? Are they just saying what they're being paid to say? So, PR, there's undoubtedly, that measurement, that benefit to it. Like I say, and then you still do get the traffic spikes. Nothing is going to get, We've just done a big campaign with an Instagram scheduling tool, where for the third year running, we've created the Instagram rich list. So, like the Sunday Times rich list, it's basically that, where we go in, really kind of look into the data of what people are charging per post, at the top tier. And I mean, like Ronaldo, Kylie Jenner, that kind of top tier.
Sure.
And every year without fail, we get hundreds of pieces of coverage, and this year, in terms of both traffic and signups, to the scheduling tool, to Hopper. There's been, I think it's like a 60% increase on the year before, and that keeps happening. You're not going to get that with paid ads. You're just not. That isn't some weird, crazy, creepy, weird and wonderful PR idea. We've just gone, okay, what's relevant to the audience? Mm-hmm. What's going to get links? Mm-hmm. What's going to build credibility? What's going to get people talking? And that's, I always think, again, if you can inspire, entertain, inform, debate, create debate. How do we do this? Well, this is a way to do it. And this is data nobody else has got. You've got a right to play in this playground. Here's an idea. It's not the sexiest idea, but it does amazingly every single year now, third year running. Yeah. You can't do that. If they'd have put the same money they paid us to do that into paid ads, they'd have had nowhere near the attention, conversions, traffic, links, thus site visibility jump, all of those things. So it's not always an either or answer. Sometimes we have creative ideas or even just straight product launch stuff, and we'll still suggest put some paid behind it. See that Business Insider piece, see that, let's promote that, because if we can then get people on your site, again, we can retarget, and we can retarget with different creative each time. Mm-hmm. So it's, for a lot of clients now, the data grab is massively important. Just that ability to, yes, force a link to a particular category, which is harder. Force a link to a particular category or page or, area on site, but also then force the opt-in. Why? Because data, especially post GDPR, is absolutely incredibly valuable. So you can't do that as well, as quickly necessarily with paid as you can an editorially an editorially conceived idea. So,
just out of interest, who's at the top of that list?
It was Kylie Jenner.
It was.
I can't remember how much she charged, but it was a fortune.
I don't know if I'm on board with that.
But talking about that, I mean, that seems the kind of, like I said, as the PR game is evolving, it's kind of dropped down for more schmoozing with the Times editor to get these and more in this influencer game. Yep. You get involved in that yourself, so you've got
So we've been doing it for years. Where kind of blogger base was my first foray really into influencers that weren't the media, because influencers will crop up. Like if you look back over the decades, they break down into DJs, like a radio journalist is still is an influencer of a sort, right? It's just they're the people that you see across the channels, platforms that that you consume. And traditionally, what's that been? It's been TV, it's been radio. Well, as times changed, and we're all weirdly, and for whatever reason, so much more desperate to consume ever more content, and or it gets thrust at us. We're seeing more and more people. Inevitably, there's going to be that kind of as that participation pyramid. The more people at the bottom, the higher the kind of the better the people at the top. So all of a sudden, we're seeing so many influencers in all these different niches. So when Bloggerbase was kind of conceived, I thought, I'm working with a leading protein company. Mm-hmm. Yes, I can get them in Men's Health. Cool. What about that blog over there with 10,000 uniques? Because that's a bought-in audience. That's an audience that's going to absolutely convert well. That has genuine interest. Or let's say I could get that client into the Sun, or the Mail, or whatever. That audience, from a conversion perspective, is going to be way less useful than that blog over there with 10,000 uniques. So how do we kind of build a marketplace or kind of something around that? Well, that's what Bloggerbase was. And then over the years, obviously influencer marketing has changed massively. And forget the legalities around it. It still is just that person has an audience. How do I reach that audience through this person? They're the gatekeepers of that audience. How do I get to them? Well, you've got gifting, whereby a brand says, hey, I'll give you X protein pouches per year. Can you promote us, please? You've got the affiliate side of things. Affiliate marketing is something I've done a lot in and around. And they say, we'll give you, we'll pay you X% on sale or X% per sale. And typically there's somebody in the middle. And then, what else you've got a mixture of those two. You've just got straight paid. So you've got your influencers that say, like the Kylie Jenner example, I want X 100,000, $1 million per post. And these are the things I will and won't talk about, and obviously you get more prescriptive, or you can afford to be
on that side of influencer marketing. Right now, influencer marketing has got a bit of a bad rap.
Hugely,
and I think more so for that that kind of
Absolutely.
marketing, because I will just pay you to shout how great my product is, even though you never use it, or actually you think it's rubbish or whatever. Do you think that consumers are just becoming more savvy to that now, which
hugely.
is why it's just
I think influencers have become more savvy, and consumers have become more savvy, and brands are kind of slow to realize that a large audience doesn't necessarily equal an engaged audience. And that's we recently, and I've worked with so many reality TV types, and to a person they've been a nightmare. But we were working with an influencer recently, an ex-Love Island person, and I think they've got something like 400,000 followers, maybe 400,000 or 500,000, so sizable. Their engagement was 0.3%. Now, average, certainly looking at kind of 3, 4, 5%, for a decent engagement rate. So you're looking like a tenth of what you might otherwise hope for. It's just, and yet people, because brands will come along, they'll see, that's a good looking person. Oh, that's somebody with a lot of followers. We'll chuck some money at this, whereas their money would 100% have better been spent elsewhere.
Yeah.
So that's what you mean by our it having a bad rap, and kind of deservedly so. But also, that old saying, the fool and his money are easily parted. It's not necessarily that they're being foolish; it's that they're not being considered. It's that they're not being guided in the right way. That they're not looking at the right metrics. So it has changed. I think the ASA has come in and really tried to tighten things up.
Yeah.
With the you must. I don't think you'd find somebody that uses social media and sees these influencers that didn't know that it's now commonplace and actually mandatory to mark things as sponsored or paid. Obviously Instagram's got its paid partnership, paid promotions, kind of tags.
Tiny
little thing, as small as they can get it. But it's people know that they're being marketed at, and again, they don't mind that if it's relevant.
Yeah, indeed. What about we've seen as well a lot of these influencers being found to buying likes and followers, etc.
Yeah.
How are you tackling that? I watched recently Social Chain have created a new department that's dedicated to sort of trying to tackle that and finding those people that are doing that and fishing them out, etc. How is Radioactive PR tackling that?
So we use a couple of different tools, and the most important thing for us is to look at fake follow accounts, which on Twitter's easy. There's like unfollow tweets and various other platforms or tools to use. I think it's like unfollow.twitter. I can't remember what it's called, but either way, there are a couple of tools there. On Instagram, similar sort of thing. You can see the engagement rates, much like the person I just said had a 0.3% engagement rate. There are tools out there that kind of show you that. So it's is
that where you're looking really? You care about engagement.
I care about engagement way more. Yeah, because I mean, like it's obviously shrouded in mystery. The whole, has somebody bought? Haven't they bought? It's quite tough to tell. But if somebody's got true and accurate engagement, true and kind of relevant engagement, then that rate's going to be relatively high, and that's where you want to be looking for clients. So it's especially if it's a paid partnership, it's on an individual basis. We will go out and make sure that we look, because clients really care about this stuff now. We have to do our due diligence to make sure that if a FTSE 250 company that we work with is about to spend some money with an influencer, that they haven't bought a load of followers, or they're not doing the like for like, or whatever it is. So it's a case of us in each circumstance going through and looking at those. Now for gifting, similar story. For affiliate marketing purposes, where we work with influencers and promote certain brands, products, services, campaigns to their audience, it matters slightly less. It's still important, but it's at a scale that's it's almost really difficult to then go through each individual influencer and say they've definitely bought, they definitely haven't, because you'd be surprised who hasn't. I've seen some incredibly well engaged with, well respected, highly thought of, high profile people. Even in the more traditional inverted commas celebrity world, that have definitely done it. So I think what's happened is people have tried to make hay, and now they've realized, we're being watched. So they've kind of taken their foot off.
Yeah,
it still happens.
It's like a few years ago, you didn't need to worry about that or so much, but now you do. So who pays for that? You as an agency, that's more legwork you've got to do now.
Yeah, it is. So it is. But that's okay. I don't mind doing that. I don't mind us as an agency doing that, because again, it's all about results, and the client's not going to stick around if they're getting bad results. And the easy thing to do is think short term, 6 week rather than 6 months, 6 years. And a 6 week approach is to say, okay, let's just go for any and every influencer, because they've got what we perceive to be a large audience. It's like, well, actually, let's really drill down into that. Let's see who let's see who they're influenced by, and that's where that's where tools can be quite useful.
Have you ever pulled anyone up?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, God, yeah. And said, so when you go to them, they say, right, it's X pounds per post. Well, like, for this engagement, and considering it's very, it looks like you've bought, especially on the Twitter side of things. Yeah. On the Twitter side of things, we definitely have, because again, I talk about being the Wild West. There's a lot of cowboys. There's a lot of people out there trying to, they will take your money and they're thinking short term. Whereas the best influencers that we work with are the ones that know that it's a long-term partnership with brands, with agencies especially, because we're bringing dozens and dozens of clients their way potentially. On the going to start a new business on that side of things, hundreds of campaigns, hundreds of big brands. It doesn't make sense for them to go short-term anymore. So it's what I think is it's like a maturation of the market. I think it's almost like it's kind of really growing up quite quickly. And of course, you're always going to have these people over here that that are doing bad things. Just like you'll always have black hat SEO. You'll always have somebody buying links from somewhere.
Yeah.
But it's a case of really trying to pick the better ones out of that.
Let's do some news. Chris, 5 minutes on the clock.
Yeah, let's hit it.
Do it.
Let's
see if we can actually manage it this time.
Okay, go.
Facebook is developing a new message app called Threads. Do you know about this?
I don't know about this. No.
Yeah, they are. It's meant to promote constant, which is a bit weird, intimate sharing between users and their closest friends. So designed as a companion app to Instagram, which is interesting because I can't remember what it was called, but it was only a while ago that they were doing that as a companion app, and then they dropped it off because tests showed that people didn't like jumping from one app to the other. To DM.
Yeah.
But now they've picked it up again and they're calling it Threads. And yeah.
So what's the difference between Threads and existing Messenger?
So it's designed for sharing with your close friends. Lists on Instagram is now being tested internally at Facebook. Instagram declined to comment because I contacted them, of course, and they didn't want to talk to me, Chris. Which is
I can't believe it. They also know your influencer and your number of followers.
Well, exactly. Yeah, I'm stupid. So it's a messaging app built around your close friends, pretty much what Snapchat currently does, or today certainly a healthy portion of their users use Snapchat for that exact purpose. So the screenshot shows an app that's designed to promote constant automatic sharing between users and people of their close friends. Opt into automatic sharing, and Threads will be regularly update your status, giving your friends a real-time view of information about your location, speed, and more. Speed I'm interested in. I mean, what I don't there's Chris, he's doing 60. I don't understand why that's of interest, but at the moment Threads does not display your real-time location. Instead it might say something like your friend is on the move. It's unclear when Threads will launch. Facebook might end development before shipping though, as they did with that other app that I mentioned. But it's just weird that they've jumped into that, having just put something down that was pretty much the same.
I don't think it's so weird. I think maybe there was some fault in the last thing they were doing, but you hear a lot now about these closed kind of garden wall apps, and people basically being a lot more aware of what they share publicly. Maybe our ages and above, not so much, but certainly your younger users. It's not about shouting out anymore. They know the ramifications of doing or saying something they don't mean, and 5 years time how that can bite you. So I think closed network messaging a la WhatsApp, which obviously they already own. But they haven't monetized WhatsApp, and I think there'd be some deal of pushback if they did monetize WhatsApp. So what are they doing? They're monetizing an area that you're a custom, you're a product in this space anyway. That you're marketed to because you're using this product. So to me, it makes perfect sense if Facebook would make more of a play to kind of close garden wall.
Yeah, but why not just in Instagram? Why take it outside, which just annoys people?
Pass.
I already think
Pass. Who knows?
I already got paralysis as to which messenger platform I use to message someone. Do I
Yeah,
text
yeah,
you?
yeah.
Do I message you? Do I WhatsApp you? Do I email you? This is going to be a new one. That's just going to...
Okay, just a quick one, moving on. Did you know that Steve Jobs is alive?
Is he?
He's alive and well.
Wow,
I've got photographic evidence. Have a look at that.
Oh yeah.
That's pretty spot on.
Do we know
So this image has gone viral. Steve Jobs apparently, I mean, it's obviously not him, but it's a pretty good lookalike. He's in Egypt. Only it's even more so interesting because I think his dad or something is Egyptian or Arabic or something, which kind of lends itself to. And he loved, when he was alive, he loved Egypt, and he loved the sort of simpler living and all that kind of stuff. He's pictured here without any shoes on, and he was famous for that, walking around the office with no shoes on.
So this is like Tin Hat Central. This is Reddit all over.
Yeah. Utter nonsense. Move on.
Elvis works in the fish and chip shop type of stuff, isn't it?
Yeah, that's it. Next one. Waymo. Do you remember, or not remember, do you know who that is?
No.
So Waymo, we talk a lot about this actually in a few episodes. Autonomous driving. Waymo is or was Google's company. So this is what's interesting. Waymo, a robot taxi service, is improving, but riders still have complaints. Waymo is operating a self-driving ride-hailing service in 2 cities, Phoenix and San Francisco. This is interesting for 2 reasons. One, that a taxi exists in automation world. So you can now get a taxi. I didn't know this. You can go and get a taxi. How this thing, it'll pick you up without a driver and take you somewhere.
Like Johnny Cab. Do you remember that? From Total Recall.
Yeah. Johnny Cab. That exists. It was only an episode or 2 ago that we were talking about level 3 or 4
UPS delivery drivers.
But this is already happening and being tested in a couple of cities. But anyway, people. So much like you take an Uber and you can at the end of it say that guy was rubbish, or you can do exactly the same kind of thing, but with Waymo. But there's no driver. Yeah. So what are you rating?
Chat's going to be rubbish.
Interesting that that's even happening. I should say, full disclaimer, that there is a human in it that when they come and collect you. Oh, it's already up.
We're into our 3rd piece though.
That's all right. We're nearly there. So there is still a human in it. Someone sitting behind the wheel, but they're hands off. They're just there for health and safety, but also because people were not happy to get in a car that didn't have someone sitting. Although the car could do it itself. They felt they had to put someone in there.
So that person sat there on standby, not doing anything. How many miles would just be driving it?
This is it. Okay. But it's happening, people. We're going to be getting taxis, without need for it. Last one. I'll do this one because we've run out. This will be 4. Nearly there for 5. Facebook. Mark Zuckerberg invents smart alarm clock. Did you hear about that?
Tell me more.
Okay, so this has been actually, I heard about this a while ago. He invented a little for his wife who was struggling to sleep, having just had a newborn baby. She kept waking up and looking at her phone, checking when it was time to feed or get up or whatever. And in looking at her phone, she was then awake and she couldn't get back to sleep. Mm-hmm. So what he invented was a little box that just at a certain time of the evening would glow, a faint glow of light under it. And in turn, that would tell her that, yes, it's time to get up, or no, you can go back to sleep. So she can kind of in a daze just glance at this thing. It doesn't show the time. He then campaigned for anyone to pick it up and run with this idea, because it worked really well for his wife, and a company has indeed got on board with it. So it was called the Sleep Box, which is what Mark called it. It's all right. It's all right. They've renamed it the Zuck Light. No, it was better. The first name was much better.
And that's weird. It's only when it's moved more away from him that they've kind of tried to jump on that.
Exactly.
That influence, I think.
Exactly. So, you'll be able to buy one of these things soon, anywhere between $60 and $450. Right up the other end, you can charge your phone off it with wireless charging, and you can also it'll tell you like the temperature of the room and some other measurements as well of heat and other stuff. So $450 though.
Blimey.
Yeah, over the top.
Blimey.
That's the news.
So I've got a question that may be out of the blue, but something I've been hearing in the news recently, Rich, and that's the latest controversy is kicked up with race stuff in football specifically, and I'm sure we all agree that's not a good thing. But it seems to be the problem is that people can go and self-publish on Twitter and Facebook and anywhere else, and those main platforms aren't seen as publishers, so they don't fall into the same guidelines as your normal journalists and publishers are. Mm-hmm. Interested on your view on that, really?
It's a really fascinating area where nobody really knows what's what, and the publishers. There you go, I did it. The channels themselves. So your Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. They're so desperate to be, to be as far away from being called a publisher as they can be. Despite the fact they bring in obviously trends and trending news and that sort of thing. And I think what Facebook does it really cleverly in that it almost brings editorial publications along for the ride. And then just like Google does with its AMP, URLs, it kind of it picks them up and drops them as and when it pleases. So I think for me, they almost certainly are publishers, right? In the true meaning of the word publisher.
Publishing content.
Yeah,
the fact that the public are their journalists.
You
so
can
to speak, almost,
publish on it, and therefore they do have a right, in my mind, yes, they're a private company. No, they're not responsible for everything everybody can say or, does say. But, when you can have something like the New Zealand shooter, go live, in the mosque, and, all of a sudden, that gives it, this enormous audience. I think they do have they do have a real kind of that is so important that they take that responsibility seriously. And I listened to Dorsey on Joe Rogan, as a lot of people probably would have done, and they touched on this quite a lot. And all I heard in his answers was, so yeah, kind of Pandora's out, boxes open. Not quite sure what to do about it, but there'll be fluff around that. And I think, we're going to see more and more regulation, like the ASA coming in on Instagram, as touched on. Is more and more regulation a good thing? Well, if my children don't have to potentially see somebody gun down, a load of people, then possibly. So it is right in the middle of that, are they, aren't they line, and you can see how and why they spend so much time and money trying to say that they're not a publisher. Because
did you hear about Facebook bringing in a team of actual journalists?
Yeah, that didn't last very long, and it went terribly.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
How was it? Oh, go on.
Yeah. Because they have no interest in good journalism. They don't care. Why? Because good journalism isn't what people want to read necessarily. They want quick, short fire, short-term content. It's we all know that on Facebook, videos perform brilliantly. What doesn't perform brilliantly? Text. Right. Sans kind of images and video, it doesn't perform very well. So, as I understand it, that did not go well.
Oh, damn.
Interesting. Okay.
Do you think it was a bit of a PR stunt?
No, I don't think. It's probably them, because they brought them in around their trending topics, and that was, their kind of foray into journalism was almost a kind of like a regulatory one. Let's make sure that the content that's being put forward as as trending is relevant, sure, as well written, all of these things. But again, it comes back to, is that what people want? And B, they fundamentally don't know what journalism is, as a public, as a platform. So I think, as I understand it, and again, this is maybe 6 months ago that I think I heard about this as a as a scheme, or maybe even longer. It didn't work because of journalists and Facebook as a platform just butted heads. We're trained journalists. This is what we want to do. No. We need what's going to get most clicks. Cheers. And and that's that is right at the heart of where the media industry is dying. It's a real struggle for it.
I'm conscious of the time, so I've got a couple more questions for you. One of which is just personally for me, really.
Okay.
And that is, do you guys, Radioactive PR, do you find yourself pitching a lot?
Pitching, yeah, absolutely.
Do you charge the client for your pitching?
We have done a couple of times, basically when we can. And so once the client came to us and said, "This is a broad pitch. We're asking 8 of you." And that happens often, where you're one of 8, 10, and I mean, it gets more and more unwieldy and like ridiculous. But they came in, well-known bookies, kind of sports betting business, and they said, all we're after is creative. We don't care if you return it on the back of a fag packet or if you do a whole presentation. We just want ideas and good ideas, and we'll pay you for them. I didn't know what to say, and this is the first time I'd been paid to pitch. I said, well, I don't want to come across as really green, but what are the others charging? and this guy, who I do have like a decent enough relationship with, worked in a few other places. He was just like, well, actually, they both come in and said this, so cool with that. And I was ecstatic with that, because again, as an agency, as somebody that provides a service, you're not typically paid to do the reams and reams of and hundreds of hours, sometimes hundreds of combined hours work it takes to put together a response to a brief. That very often you get a one-line email back that says, "Cheers, we've gone another direction," or sometimes you get nothing back at all. Not even a thank you, not even okay, we're going to take this into consideration. Enormous brand got £250 million worth of investment that we were talking to last year, maybe 18 months ago. We're still waiting to hear back. I'm pretty sure that one's not going to happen. So I think pitching in PR and marketing, kind of, agency supply service in general is absolutely fundamentally broken. Yeah. I think, for the incumbent then, or, for the previous agency to then be, chosen again, second or third pitch cycle around, just shows that people feel like they have to do it because of due diligence, or maybe they had no intention. They just I don't know. Well, did they like making us jump through hoops? Yeah. God knows. But so that was the first brand, and then secondly, there was another one. They asked for a ridiculous amount of work, kind of in the build up to. It wasn't just a response; it was work too. So I said, "We're going to charge you for this too," and they went, "Yeah, okay, that's fine." But it's certainly not the norm, is it?
Yeah. No. Well, that's exactly why I asked the question. I mean, if in a world where it was normal to charge for that pitching and for the clients to pay, is there ever a time where you take a step back and say, actually, no, when we won't charge for this, it's enough of a brand clout, or it's enough of a job that I won't charge for it?
No, I mean, I guess we're pipe dreaming there. The idea that I could in any way as a supplier have the ability to say, so you know what? No, we're not going to. So, like I say, the brand that came to us and said, we want to pay you for your time is big enough as it is. Yeah. So for me, it's not about brand clout. It's about recognizing that there's such a ridiculous amount of time spent on this and such a lot of hours wasted doing this. It does have to change. There are people in PR actually. Alex at Manifest, Alex Myers at Manifest. He's kind of leading a campaign leading a campaign on getting paid for pitching, and again, brands, because they know there are 4,500 agencies that do PR in the UK. They've got choice. You've got absolute choice. So why, if somebody's over here saying, "Yeah, we're going to make you pay," then you as a brand, do you A, respect that and think that's exactly the kind of agency we want to work with because they're going to believe in their ideas, or do we think B, let's save ourselves some money because we work in procurement and actually we're not going to be that close to the outcome anyway. It's a weird one. It is.
What was his name?
Alex Myers from
Alex
from Manifest. Yeah, no, it's amazing. It really is. It's incredible.
Have you got any more? I've got one more, Chris. I wanted to quiz Rich on, is that?
I guess the one I'm interested in is looping back to kind of how you provide your clients now, sort of how you manage their coverage and how you report back to those people. I guess there's more and more online tools enabling you to do that than kind of the old days of counting column inches sort of stuff. And is that what's led to your agency? You happily put your staff down to 4-day weeks, but maintain
that was my question as well. So great.
Okay, yeah. So that is right at the heart of how and why we've been able to go down to a 4-day week while still paying for 5. I think technology is supposed to have made our lives better. I think we can all around the room agree that in many cases it makes you more stressed, less relaxed. I know those two things are exact, but it makes you're just constantly on. And you hear your phone go again. We've all put our phones on airplane mode. This is the most relaxed stuff out in bloody ages. So it's a case of it's supposed to have made our lives easier. I took a step back and thought, are we only doing this because this is what everybody's always done? The 5-day 9 to 5:30. And I thought, well, actually, we're using reporting tools now. Like there's one called Coverage Book that we've been using for a couple of years. The team there are great. Actually built out of an agency. It's that service model where they thought, oh, Christ, we wish we were in product. And they built something out that now they have subscribers per month. And, it's definite revenue, no client services, or, minimal client services. Is just, support that you can kind of automate. And they're making way more from the tool than they did, than I think they ever did at the agency. So that's something that I've always got an eye on, is building out tools. We use things like that and it just saves our time. When I first got into PR, again, 11, 12 years ago, we were still grabbing every piece of coverage. At the time, luckily, we weren't cutting and pasting it out of print, but we would still have to send, photocopies and things, or kind of scans of print coverage. We were still putting it into PowerPoint documents, a piece to a page, a little bit about it, what the domain authority was potentially, or how many uniques we thought it might have had, because everybody lies. Is there a link? Yes, no. Brand mentions, how many? All of these things.
Sounds long.
It would take all day. It would genuinely take all day. On any given client, you get 50 to 100 pieces of coverage a week. Like, if you're doing, if you're doing well, or, hundreds per month, factor that up times dozens of clients. So every Friday among the team, it just used to be a case of, right, we're reporting today. Well, now we've got a tool that does it. You just copy and paste the URL. It grabs all of that because obviously, it's open APIs. It's, nice quick grabs. It's, it tells us all that information in a short and sharp way. So something that used to take 8 hours now takes 20 minutes, absolute maximum. It didn't make sense to me to still, and Fridays were that day for us in PR. So PR's an industry where you tend not to send news out on a Friday because journalists are harder to get hold of, harder than even, more recently they have become. No news goes out and it's generally reporting day. Well, that's the day that can potentially go. And for me, it was, we're using these tools. I want the team to be as happy as they can be, because if they're a happy team, then they'll do great work. If they do great work, then we'll have happy clients, and happy clients stay and they pay, and it reduces the churn and the need for me to keep being out pitching. So it was I think when I first came out with this, a lot of people were like, this is some Guardian reading, left leaning, cardigan wearing, like ideology. And it's like, well, no, there's an economic imperative here as well, because if the team are happier, they stay. And if they stay, then there's, instant recruitment costs saved. Yeah. Both, recruiting for people that leave. And our retention's, phenomenal. We've had one person in nearly 5 years leave now, and she just moved back home. And I was gutted to lose her. So retention's there. But also, from a recruitment perspective, that's not cheap. Whether it's you doing it as, as the agency owner, or as you working with a recruitment team. And I know you guys have obviously dealt with recruitment. It can be a minefield, can't it? Yeah, so there's that. But there's also, if clients stay, then they're on the books. And like I say, that churn of clients can become really costly. And in the industry, we're not that great at, that retention of client piece. Whereas here, our retention is very, very high. So there is an economic imperative.
Do clients even notice it?
I'd hope not anymore. Yeah, I'd hope not. When I first trialed it, we did it for 6 weeks, and I asked clients at 3 weeks and 6 weeks to tell us if there'd been any change or any drop in results or communication. Because they're the two key things we kind of measure ourselves on as a direct result of the 4 day. And to a client, they said no. So if there would have been any real pushback, I wouldn't have done it. Because I'd be driving, kind of sailing us into an iceberg. Yeah. But we've been doing it now since June last year. So 14 months, 15 months, getting on for, and turnover's up 70%. Margins have stayed the same, which is net high for the with like 4 times, 5 times the industry average, because we're based in Gloucestershire and we charge what everybody else charges, and rightly so. So all these things kind of came together to make me think we're probably in as good a position as any company in the UK is going to be to make this work. We're still small enough. Yeah. We can be quite flexible. We're still small enough that I communicate with every client still, or have the ability to. I'm not that kind of far receded into the background now, or yet, and I don't want to be. I don't want an agency where I've got 200 people running around and I don't know anybody's names. Do you know what I mean?
Sure. Yeah.
So it's a case of everything seemed to fall into place, and the team love it, unsurprisingly.
As you grow, do you ever see that changing?
I don't. No. Just like, especially on the PR side, on the group. So I talked about de-risking earlier on. Yeah. After that talk, well, for me, it's a case of every marketing director's got a budget, and they've got lines in their budget. Now, PR might not always be on. PR might not always be a consideration, but paid social is, PPC is, production is, if they're going video, audio. Influencer marketing is, especially if it's performance marketing, in which you earn if they earn. On the affiliate marketing side of things. So I'm basically creating businesses under the Radioactive Group banner now. So I've set that up as a limited holding company, and that owns Radioactive PR and the majority of Radioactive Talent, which is a new company I've started, and that's us working predominantly with influencers to give them access to high level brand campaigns where we all earn. If everybody if the brand earns, we all earn. So it's kind of a side piece to the PR. But it's all complementary, and as I say, it just comes from constant conversations with marketers where I'm like, okay, I know you've got budget. Do you want to one roof it, or do you want to do you want 5 different agency partners? Yeah. Because people seem to like the way that we work from a communications perspective. It's all WhatsApp groups with clients, and it's all nice and seamless. And the way that we report, and kind of the things. It's just how do we take that into other areas? I've got no intention on doing website building or anything like that. I promise. Like, I'll leave the experts to that stuff.
Good to hear.
Cool.
Good to hear.
We've run out of time, I'm afraid, guys. Shameless plug, Rich. How can we find you? How can we reach you? And Radioactive PR.
Yeah, radioactivepr.com, radioactivetalent.com is the new one. I'm on pretty much every social channel, so just Rich Leigh PR, Leigh, so Rich, Leigh PR. I probably spend way too much time tweeting and not enough time doing other bits and pieces. But so I'm always around on there.
Good stuff. Well, thanks for joining us, Rich.
Thank you very much.
Have you on again at some point.
Yeah.
Perhaps when Radioactive Talent really kicks off. We can come back and talk about that specifically. That'd be cool.
I really want to get into I love stats. I love the creative side of things, but I love stats. So I was talking to my business partner on that business earlier on, just about that click-through rate side of things with these influencers. It's absolutely fascinating. And once we've got dozens of, if not hundreds of campaigns running, we're going to have tens of thousands of influencers working. We're going to be able to give a really decent macro view of how influencers work across sectors, across different product types, services. So maybe I can bore you guys with that. You
can come and out all the ones you think of bought their followers.
The next podcast will just be me listing. It'll just be like, right, okay, number one.
Great stuff. Thank you, Rich.
Thank you, guys.
Cheers, Rich. Thank you.
Thanks for listening. We hope you enjoyed this episode.
If you did, please remember to subscribe if you haven't already, and most importantly, leave us a comment or review on Apple Podcasts, as it really helps us bring you new episodes regularly.
If you've got something to say around digital marketing and would like to feature on a future podcast, please do get in touch in any of the usual ways. You've been listening to Hit Publish with myself, Chris.
And me, Ian.